Have you ever noticed how one simple message can change your entire mood? You're having a normal day, nothing special, maybe a little boring, maybe a little heavy, and then your phone lights up. "Hey, I was thinking about you." That's it. Suddenly your shoulders relax, your face softens, you read it again just to be sure, and for the next 5 minutes you're walking around like you just won something. Why does that tiny sentence feel so powerful? Because deep down, under the goals, the money, the confidence, the "I don't need anyone" attitude, every human being has the same quiet need: to feel wanted. Not needed for a task, not useful, not convenient. Wanted. There's a difference. Being needed is, "Can you help me move this couch?" Being wanted is, "I just like having you around." One feels like a job, the other feels like belonging. And whether we admit it or not, belonging is everything. Think about childhood for a second. As kids, we didn't care about status, we didn't care about achievements. We cared about one thing: do they want to play with me? That moment when someone picked you for their team, elite feeling. That moment when everyone else was chosen and you were standing there pretending you didn't care, character development. That need never really goes away. It just grows up and puts on different clothes. As adults, it becomes, "Why didn't they invite me? Why haven't they texted back? Why does it feel like I'm always the one reaching out?" We don't just want attention, we want reassurance that we matter. And here's the interesting part. The human brain is wired for this. Thousands of years ago, being excluded wasn't just awkward, it was dangerous. If the tribe didn't want you, you didn't survive. So your brain learned to treat rejection like a threat. That's why being ignored can feel way more painful than it logically should. Someone leaves you on red, and your brain reacts like, "Well, this is the end, pack it up." It sounds dramatic, but biologically, your system is just doing what it was trained to do: protect your place in the group. Now let's talk about something subtle. There's a huge difference between attention and being wanted. Attention is loud. Being wanted is steady. Attention is 50 likes on a photo. Being wanted is one person who says, "Send me that picture first." Attention is someone flirting when they're bored. Being wanted is someone choosing you when they have options. And sometimes we confuse the two. We chase attention because it's visible, it's measurable, it feels like proof. But attention without intention feels empty after a while. You can have hundreds of followers and still feel unwanted. You can be in a relationship and still feel like an option. And that's where it gets complicated, because the need to feel wanted doesn't disappear just because you're surrounded by people. It disappears when you feel chosen. Chosen on purpose, chosen consistently, chosen without competition. Let's be honest, most of our overthinking in relationships comes from one question: do they really want me? Not do they tolerate me, not are they bored, not am I convenient, but want. You see it in small behaviors. If you always initiate plans, something feels off. If you're always the one sending the good morning text, something feels off. If you stopped trying and everything would collapse, that feeling hurts. Because we don't want to feel like we're holding everything together alone. We want to feel desired, not just accepted. And here's where it gets even deeper. Sometimes we don't even want a specific person. We want the feeling of being wanted. That's why people stay in almost relationships. That's why people entertain mixed signals. That's why situationship became a whole category. It's not love they're holding on to, it's hope. Hope that someone will finally say, "No games, I choose you." That sentence has power. But here's the twist. If you don't feel wanted consistently, your nervous system never relaxes. You stay alert, you stay hyper-aware, you analyze tone, response time, emojis. You become a part-time detective in your own love life. And that's exhausting, because real security feels calm. When you're truly wanted, you don't need to decode everything. You don't need to perform. You don't need to compete. You just exist, and that's enough. Now let's talk about ego for a second. Sometimes when we say, "I don't care," what we really mean is, "I care, but I don't want to look desperate." We've been taught that needing reassurance is weakness, that wanting to feel chosen is clingy, that asking for consistency is too much. But think about it. We water plants consistently, we charge our phones consistently, we feed pets consistently. But when it comes to emotional consistency, suddenly that's too demanding? Make it sense. The need to feel wanted isn't toxic. The way we try to force it sometimes is. If someone constantly shows you that you're optional and you stay trying to prove yourself, that's where pain starts. Because you can't convince someone to want you. You can impress them, you can accommodate them, you can overgive, but you can't manufacture desire. And here's something powerful. When someone truly wants you, it's obvious, not perfect, not dramatic, but obvious. They make time, they check in, they include you. They don't make you question your place. You don't have to audition. And the moment you experience that kind of energy, you realize how exhausting uncertainty was. But there's another layer to this. Sometimes the person who doesn't feel wanted is you. You can be in a room full of people and still feel invisible. You can be helpful, funny, kind, and still feel like nobody specifically chose you. That's a lonely kind of loneliness, and often it starts with how we see ourselves. If you don't feel worthy of being wanted, you'll accept breadcrumbs. If deep down you believe you're replaceable, you'll tolerate being treated like an option. Not because you like it, because it matches your inner story. That's why healing isn't just about finding someone who wants you. It's about becoming someone who believes they deserve to be wanted. There's a huge difference, because when you believe you deserve it, your standards change. You stop chasing lukewarm energy. You stop romanticizing minimal effort. You stop over-celebrating basic decency. Wow, they replied. The bar's in the basement. And listen, we've all been there. We've all screenshotted a normal conversation like it was a marriage proposal. Growth is realizing that real desire doesn't feel rare, it feels steady. So how do you know if you're truly wanted? Simple test. If you disappeared for a week, would they notice? Would they check in? Would they feel your absence? Not because you provide something, not because you're useful, but because you're you. That's the core of it. To feel wanted is to feel valued beyond utility. And here's the most beautiful part. You can't force someone to want you, but you can choose environments where your presence is appreciated, friendships where you're invited, relationships where you're prioritized, spaces where you're not competing for crumbs. And sometimes that means walking away from places where you feel tolerated, which is hard, because the human need to feel wanted can trick us into staying where you're half seen, staying where you're half chosen, staying where you're almost enough. But almost slowly damages your self-worth, and you deserve more than almost. You deserve someone who says, "I want you here," without hesitation, without confusion, without mixed signals. Because the truth is, the need to feel wanted isn't weakness, it's proof that you're human. We're wired for connection, we're wired for belonging, we're wired to be chosen. And when that need is met in a healthy way, something shifts. You relax, you stop overthinking, you stop chasing, you start receiving. So if you've ever felt silly for wanting reassurance, if you've ever felt embarrassed for caring, if you've ever pretended not to mind when you really did, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't want attention, you want intention. You don't want validation from everyone. You want to feel chosen by someone who sees your value clearly. And that's not too much. That's human. And when you finally experience being genuinely wanted, not chased, not tolerated, not occasionally remembered, but consistently chosen, you'll realize something powerful. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. And the right ones, they won't make you question your place. They'll make you feel at home.